All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with the University of Florida Extension Service here in beautiful, sunny this morning, Hernando County. And joining me today is my regular co-host. I guess Bernie, you've got that spot now. You're the regular co-host. Bernie's our master gardener volunteer that answers all the really, really hard questions. I just let him do the heavy lifting. Good morning, Bernie. How are you?
Well, I'm doing pretty well. Uh, I'm here. That's the important thing.
Yes, it is. We are here. Everything seems to be working at the moment. And today we have a special new guest in here with us. We have Colby. Colby Pitts is our new Hernando County Florida Friendly Landscape Coordinator. Good morning, Colby, and welcome to StreamYard and the weekly virtual plant clinic.
Oh, thanks for the welcome. I'm excited to be here.
Probably still a little bit lost, but that's okay. You'll figure it out. This really isn't all that difficult. So, I'm sure many of you or all of you that are joining us live or watching this recorded remember our Florida Friendly Landscape Coordinator, Lily Browning, who was my regular co host for many years since we started doing this. I think our last anniversary was the 3-year anniversary this past April. We've been doing this for so long. I mean, time flies. I can't remember. It seems like we've been doing it forever, joining you here almost every Thursday morning to answer your questions. But Lily retired and left us and moved to Pennsylvania. And she's up there dealing with their own invasive insects and her own garden up there in Pennsylvania and enjoying the life of retirement. So I think normally she looks at her schedule and sees, oh, I have to go to the post office and buy a stamp and mail something. And that's kind of it for the day. So I'm jealous. I wish I could get away with doing that too. So Lily's going to be back on at some point, on and off, either coming up with nasty comments that I can share with everybody, or joining us live on camera to be able to answer questions. So, like I mentioned to Colby, we've been doing this for a couple of years, and we come on here once a week in case anybody has any lawn and garden questions. So please feel free to ask them. If you put them in the comments, I see them, I can click on them, and that way we all see the question. And if it's a hard question, we make Bernie answer it. And if it's one I feel like answering, I'll jump in and answer it. And if none of us knows the answer, we hate to admit to that, but sometimes we just don't know the answer off the top of our heads. We'll look it up and find out, and we'll get the answer back to you to help you out in your lawn and garden situation, irrigation, sprinklers, trees, people putting mothballs outside. Don't ever do that. So, Bernie, what are some other kind of questions that we get here?
Well, primarily people have these gardening questions. They want to know about fruits and vegetables. Everything that won't grow in Hernando County is a general rule. So we get asked a lot of questions, and the truth is, I really only know a very limited number of things. I'm a citrus guy, and I know about lawns. I really am kind of an expert on lawn questions. And so the two things that we don't get any questions on are citrus and lawns. Uh, the fruits and vegetables, if it grows in South Florida, people want to grow it here. If it grows in New York, people want to grow it here. So those are the questions we get. How can we move the New York environment to Hernando County, or how can we move the Miami environment to Hernando County? If it's a Hernando County question, apparently they call the people in Miami first. So uh, the thing is, we have one of the best darn audiences going. The real truth is, these people are very, very, very sharp on their gardening, and they're a joy to deal with because they know and many times as much as we do, and they know maybe uh, the right side of the question, we know the left side of the question, and together with these people, we can solve a lot of problems and it's very enjoyable. So I think if you stick with us, you're going to really like this.
And we have people from all over the state of Florida who regularly tune in. So whoever's watching us live right now, go ahead and put down where you're watching us from. You'd be amazed. We have people, regulars from the Panhandle to Broward County, a number of people around Pinellas County, Hillsborough County, areas south of there. And we get questions from all over. So Colby, why don't you take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about yourself so that the people either watching live or watching recorded can get kind of an idea of just who the heck you are.
Well, as introduced, my name is Colby Pitts. I am a recent graduate of the University of Central Florida. Go Knights. So my educational background, it is biology. But I was a focus on conservation, ecology, and evolutionary biology. And I did an internship doing invasive plant control. So that's kind of my expertise is with plants invasive to Central Florida. That's my bread and butter. I'm from Sumter County, which is, right up the road, but I'm a Hernando County transplant, and I like it here. I'm really new, really excited in the position. And I think that's your 10-cent introduction, I suppose.
Well, really soon, as soon as I get emails and phone calls and everything asking Florida-friendly landscape questions, I will pass them on to you.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's plenty of questions that when you get them, you'll end up passing them on to me.
Okay.
And we'll make sure that you know which ones you should pass on to our county forester and other people around here. We all kind of work together because we each have our own area of expertise to answer questions. So it's not me just trying to empty my email, although that'd be nice if I could do that. I send them to Bernie sometimes too.
I get my share. It's very interesting, Colby, that Lily was a graduate of Central Florida. And Lily and I took the Master Gardener class at the same time. She was office gal for the extension at the time, and they wanted her to be able to answer questions, and you needed to be a Master Gardener to do it. So she took the Master Gardener class, became very interested, started taking the classes with Central Florida, and she would get off work at 5 o'clock, jump in a car, and run home, grab something to eat, and drive up to Ocala and go to classes. That was the closest place that she could get horticultural related classes. And it was very interesting because during the day while she was studying, I would get to read her textbooks. So it was kind of like a twofer deal there for a while. We would be able to study together while we were at the extension, and then boom, she would go off and get the next day's class. So I picked up a lot of things from Central Florida, and they had a very good class. So very good courses, and I really appreciate the university. It's one of those things that wasn't there the first time I came to Florida. And the second time I came to Florida, I went out in the old area where I had lived before, and boom, here's this beautiful big university. So it surprised me how quick they can put these things up, and it's just amazing. So anyway, I think if you're a graduate from Central Florida, you're probably pretty darn good, because I think it's a pretty darn good university. So there's my opinion, which I'm just giving.
And I know that we're all always learning new things. I've taken online degree programs from Cornell on social media marketing, and there's a bunch more things I need to learn. Just never enough hours in the day sometimes.
No, I'm super excited to learn some more. it's kind of the social media aspect, the marketing aspect is something I'm super interested in. But they don't teach you a lot of that in a biology major. No, we're going to learn about cells today,
Well, great. As we move forward and Colby comes up with new ideas and we have new classes and new offerings, one place you can go, Colby, if you plan a class or plan an activity and you put it on Facebook, you make a Facebook event. And when you're going through that, you could put our page down as a co-host. If I accept that, it goes into my feed, which you see down at the very bottom. If you go to hernandoextension.com, it's a freestanding web page that's fed from Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a listing of all of our upcoming classes, everything that we've planned out and scheduled and put on Facebook. It shows up on there. So folks, even if you're not on Facebook, you can always go to this page. You can easily bookmark it. That way you can find out all the different, Colby's classes, my classes, other people in the office, their classes. We have a coastal cleanup coming up in a few weeks in the middle of September. So we always have a lot of activities, some in person, most online. So no matter where you live, you can participate in the online things. So be sure to bookmark that and check it frequently. So when we get Colby doing stuff here, his stuff will show up there too.
Yeah, we have some account stuff we're trying to work out right now. I'm seeing as it is only my first week. So as soon as we iron out those details, you should be seeing updates. If you like the Florida Friendly Landscaping Hernando County page, you will see that. Eventually I'll do my introduction and all, but we have some stuff we have to iron out first.
Well, this is our Facebook page. So if you follow us on Facebook, our short name is Hernando EXT, short for Hernando Extension. That way you'll see everything that we have scheduled or coming up every week. Like, for example, today, probably before lunch, I need to go ahead and schedule and post next week's virtual plant clinic. So all the links and everything that you need will be right there. I even went in and put in Colby's new email address. So if you have any Florida Friendly Landscape questions, you can email Colby directly, save all the really hard questions for him, and that way he can learn how to forward them back to me so that we get them answered. But one way or the other, we're going to find out the answer for you. So we'll show that again definitely before the end. Okay, you're getting a couple welcomes from some of our regulars here. This is Bill Camillo, and he lives in Spring Hill, Sterling Hill area. So we do have some people from Hernando County that watch us, but quite a few from other parts of Florida.
That's exciting. It's very interesting to see the wide reach.
Well, we started this because a couple of years ago when COVID broke out, they shut down the office, and we could still get emails, and goodness knows we got plenty of emails. We would still get phone calls. Teresa forwarded the office number to her cell phone. So if you called our office, we would get back with you and get your question answered. But people couldn't just, ramble into the office with a leaf or a question or something like that. So we wanted to do something to kind of replicate that. And we came up with the virtual plant clinic idea. Now, if any of you have a lawn and garden question, if you go ahead and email me, let me throw this up here. If you email me a picture right now, I have my email open on this side of the screen. So I'll see it, I can open it, and I can share it on the screen. And we can all see the picture of the leaf, the insect, your half-dead lawn, whatever, the palm tree leaning and falling over, whatever your problem is, we can all see it, and we can go ahead and come up with an answer because we have Bernie here. So I'll give the hard questions to him. And that way everybody learns from it. So it's worked out really, really well. We have a lot of very, very loyal followers. And that's, guys, if none of you tuned in, Lily and I probably would have quit doing this a long time ago. but we do have fans. We do have people that watch. I sent us a survey before, and as a general rule, the vast majority of people who watch this watch it both live and recorded. So people take advantage of both ways.
Well, the interesting thing about this format is that not only do you get an answer, you get an explanation. It puts us in a position to do a little more than just say, well, throw some spinosad on it and that'll solve the problem and move on to the next thing. We can explain why that particular insect is only here for a particular amount of time, whatever the thing may be, whatever we're discussing. So I think that people really enjoy being given the explanation, because then that not only do they have a solution to the problem, they have the knowledge to understand what's happening the next time, and makes them a little smarter than their neighbor. One of the radio stations in Orlando has a saying, this will make you smarter, but it won't raise your IQ. So
I like that.
that's what you get here. We make you a little smarter, but we don't really bother your IQ.
I like especially if you're watching it live, the conversational aspect. It's really easy to ask a follow-up question if maybe you didn't get the entire explanation, you didn't understand part of it. You can just ask that right away, and we can see it, answer it. I was in college for a lot of COVID, so I had a lot of online classes. I had a lot of learning how to interact through this, and there's a lot of like being able to ask the follow-up questions, I think, is massive when you're talking about trying to solve a difficult issue.
Well, one of the other things that happens is somebody calls us in, or not called, but provides a question, and they're in, say, the Daytona area. That's not really in our bailiwick. We give them an answer that generally applies to this area because that's what we know about. And if there's some more from maybe somebody in Miami or Fort Lauderdale sends us, we do this, and somebody in Tallahassee says, in Tallahassee we have this, and pretty soon you put together an entire picture of the entire state and what the problem is, and maybe how things change across the state, or maybe it's multiple ideas that where you're located here are a handful of things that if this one doesn't work, this one or this one will. So it's a better answer for most people than they get just calling one extension office. So, I mean, it's basically being not only in touch with the university, but with people that have got the hands-on knowledge that goes with whatever the problem is. It's just a nice, friendly format, I think.
It's like the different perspectives, and
exactly.
you get to paint, like you said, paint the entire picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've had guests on before, other people with extension, and they're experts on water resources, wells, septic systems, other Florida-friendly landscape agents from other counties around Florida. Let me think who else we've had on. We've had a bunch of different people.
Had the mosquito control people.
Sure, we've had our local county mosquito control people on. That's always very important. How to, reduce the number of mosquitoes in your yard. And people always think, well, you do that by sending the truck out. It's like, no, you need to dump the water in your yard. That's what's going to really help. And then, of course, in the past, we would have Bernie, the lawn meister, on as a guest, and we just made him a regular. So, on this platform, in this format, I can have 10 people on here. Your boxes start to get really small, but we can have 10 boxes. So, and yes,
The Vanilla Project.
that's here. I have it written down. Hey, you can even read it about an update on growing vanilla. I looked that up real quickly. There's really no really recent newspaper or newsletter articles about any kind of major discovery with vanilla, but I'm going to hold to Dr. Chambers, and we'll probably go ahead and schedule a class on an update on growing vanilla. Colby, did you know that you can grow vanilla here in Florida?
I do now.
It is an orchid. It is a vining orchid, and it's a vine that grows really, really long. In nature, it's going to grow up into a
Mhm.
tree and flower, and then the pod from the flower, the reproductive structure, is the vanilla bean,
Mhm.
and that's where vanilla comes from. Gets a little tricky around here because it's tropical, but we're not.
Mhm.
So you're here from Sumter County. It freezes over there every winter, right?
I mean, it's about the same. I'm
Yeah.
30 minutes.
Yeah. So, and it freezes here. So you're going to have to take special care growing those tropical things, but
Yeah.
you can do it here. So yeah, I'll probably get a hold of him and see if he could just pop on. I'll schedule a class, see if he could pop on and give an update. That was a very, very well watched recorded class that is now on YouTube. So if anybody's interested about growing vanilla, I'm 99% sure that class is on Hernando County government's YouTube channel. And there is a very, very long name. Don't try writing it down. Go to YouTube, go to the little search box at the very top, put in Hernando County government, boom, you'll find Hernando County government's page. And if you start looking through the playlists, Extension has one. And Colby, you have one now also.
I do, and you can be on the lookout. There will be stuff posted once we, I got to get into it, and I have to get all this account stuff ironed out. But big plans that I have for some of the content we're gonna produce. Very informative, very entertaining. Well, one of the things I'm most excited for, really.
It's a shame we can't just start a TikTok channel.
Right.
Sorry, guys, we're not allowed to. University won't let us. County government won't let us. Everybody hates TikTok now, but
I don't know why you get to see so many entertaining videos of cats and dogs all the time.
sure. As a matter of fact, I've been meaning to start a TikTok. Is it a TikTok channel?
I think it's referred to like as a TikTok. I'm gonna make a TikTok, and that's
Okay,
like the channel and the video itself.
I've wanted to start a TikTok for our husky. As a matter of fact,
Very entertaining dog. I bet your husky does all sorts of kooky things.
Just lays there.
there he is. Now, if that is not social media TikTok worthy, I don't know what is. So,
My cat does that same exact thing. Much smaller though, much smaller.
I've
Now,
got facets.
go-
They do that.
going back to growing vanilla, Buddy, who's a regular viewer from up in Tallahassee, has 2 of them growing in containers up there. So you can do it.
Well, it gets
and it
very
will
cold.
work, but you can't let it freeze.
Yeah. So I wonder maybe a question about that is if you are somewhere, if you're trying to grow maybe a native tropical plant somewhere that it freezes, how can you prevent that? Like, what can you do when it gets cold outside and what do you do to keep that plant alive? Maybe that's something you can go into.
Bernie, what would you do to keep a plant warm and keep it from freezing?
Depends on how cold it's going to get. Obviously, if you tent the plant and take the cover all the way down to the ground, the heat from the ground will protect. If it's going to be 28 degrees overnight, you can protect it by covering it. A small plant, you just take a box or a waste basket or something and put over it, and that'll give you the protection. If you're going to go colder than that, and you're in an area that freezes, you really should consider putting those plants in pots and moving them. And what you have to remember is that once you do that, temperatures that would not damage the root structure if it was in the ground will kill it when it's in a pot. The people forget that. the pot cools off, the root structure goes too cold. Once you lose the roots, obviously you lose the whole plant. So if you put them inside and protect them, that's great. You can put heaters in if you leave it outside, but that's only good to a point. We get these occasional freezes where it's in the 18s for several hours, and at that point you're probably going to lose all the tropicals that are outside, even if you're really working hard to protect them. So and the sad part about it is you can tell people this, you can explain the entire procedure, and your next door neighbor will wrap a tree up like a lollipop. It gets no heat out of the ground whatsoever. And for some reason they think it, you put a blanket on yourself at night and that keeps you warm. You put a blanket on a tree, that's going to keep the tree warm. Well, the tree doesn't generate any heat. Mm-hmm. So you just lose the plant, you lose the top. If it's cold enough, you lose the roots. And if you're up north where they've got freeze-ins into the ground, they can't even consider putting these kind of plants in the ground that we do here. The old Christmas tree lights, the old incandescent bulbs, you can use those. They don't produce enough heat to burn the plant, but underneath the cover, they generally produce enough heat that they'll keep the plant going down into the teens. Fortunately, we don't get those too often, but then back in the 80s, 81, we had a freeze and killed all the citrus and people replanted. 83, we had another one. 85, we had another one. 89, we had another one. So when you get a group like that, if you go over to Claremont, Florida, there's a thing called the Citrus Tower. And back in 1980, you could go to the Citrus Tower and see more citrus from there than any other spot on Earth. And now, after the 3 super freezes of the 80s, when you go up in the Citrus Tower, you see more roofs than you can see from any place else except the Empire State Building, I think. The weather does change, and we're getting warmer now. So, and the having to protect plants for a long period of time isn't occurring as often. I have only 2 plants left in pots that I worry about, and I put them both in the garage, and they spent maybe 5 nights in the garages here, and 10 years ago those same plants would have spent 6 weeks in the garage. So it is warmer. I don't know if that's cyclic or if there's a change that's permanent, but whatever it is, protecting the plants in the winter is a problem. And the problem is you have to make the decision now. Do I pot this plant and move a very heavy pot, or do I put it in the ground and pay the consequences? I used to grow frangipanis, the beautiful flowering plant, but I made the mistake. I put them all on the ground, and it was one of the years it went to 18 degrees. So not only did I lose the tops, I lost the bottoms, even though they were in the ground. So that will happen, and it's not possible to protect the root structure on the in-ground stuff. So make your decisions ahead of time. The plants, the healthier the plant is, the better opportunity it has to survive. And when you tell somebody that this plant probably has no chance of surviving in the ground over winter in our county, a lime plant, for instance, limes tend to freeze at 30 degrees. So you tell them, and they tell you about their neighbor that's got one that has survived for the past 35 years. So it's taken the 18-degree hits twice. I don't know why that happens, but some plants actually do those things. We have every plant here that can't be grown here as an example to make us look like idiots. And the truth is,
Hmm.
we're trying to protect the people. The 99 out of 100 won't survive, but there is one that will. So if you don't mind spending the money and taking the chances, go ahead. Otherwise, put it in the pot and get you a big, uh, little, what do they call it, furniture moving dolly to be able to move the plant back in the garage or somewhere. I'm done.
I think not a lot of people realize that the heat that you're using to keep the plant from freezing is coming from the ground. It's not coming from the plant. I mean, I can tell you, it gets cold every time you drive by. You see people. It's like I got a bed sheet wrapped around the trunk of a tree. Like that's not really going to help you at all. Because like you said, it's not like putting a blanket on yourself because your body makes heat, but plants are they're not exothermic. They're not making any heat. They have to get it from somewhere else.
And we have a question here about Bill asks, I've always wondered if there's some kind of long-term cycle that will eventually return us to colder winters. I guess we do not have longer-term records. A lot of the weather and temperature records only go back 100 years, plus or minus. So we could tell on a 100-year cycle, things change. I can tell you in Florida, rainfall is cyclic. If you look at a graph, it's a roller coaster. It's up and down, up and down. Couple of wet years, couple of dry years. Right now, we've been in a couple of pretty average years, but I guarantee you, we will see more dry weather and droughts long term one day. It's going to come. So a lot of these things do go. We don't have accurate numbers over like the last 10,000 years. How cold has it gotten in Hernando County? So we can kind of guess. You always kind of hope for the best and plan for the worst. I'm sure that we're going to end up with a really, really cold winter. We do every once in a while. And that's when people get surprised by just how cold it can get here and the different plants they lose. That maybe, like when Bernie was talking about in the 80s, there was one year where the vast majority of the queen palms in Orlando were all killed, like dead. And people are like, oh my gosh, that queen palm's been here for 10, 15 years, because they are fast growing palms. Well, technically they can't take really cold temperatures. And it's only a matter of time until we hit a winter where we get really cold temperatures and you start losing things that you maybe aren't really used to losing. And people that have only been here for a few years just don't know just how cold it can get right here.
Well, I think the long-term cycles are probably measured in hundreds of years or thousands of years, and lifetimes very, very seldom hit 100 years. So it means that no matter where it is in the cycle, you're not going to see the peak or the valley in a lifetime. So
Yeah.
whatever you see in your lifetime is pretty much a slow reflection of what's going on, and it may change 10 degrees, but it really isn't going to affect the long term, and you aren't going to see the long term. I live in an area in the county that's 200 feet above sea level, but it's all sand. At one time, it was beach. So, the sea level is down 200 feet from what it was at some point. Obviously, that's 16,000 years ago, which is a relatively small time in the life of the planet. The west coast of Florida was 200 miles west. That's a dramatic change. So it means that every 100 years, sea level rises a measurable amount. It rises a foot in 100 years. Well, that, if it does it in spurts and it doesn't change for 50 years and then it rises a foot in 50 years, it looks like a fantastic change, a rapid change, but in long term, it's really nothing. We were 50 feet farther out 8,000 years ago or whatever. So these changes, uh, they're occurring at a rate that we're not really seeing what's happening. We see a slight effect and think the world is the sky is falling, the henny penny effect. But unfortunately, I don't know if there's a big problem from climate change or if there's just a cyclic climate change. It doesn't make any difference, really. The result is exactly the same, and we alter it in a short term. We go cut down all the trees in Brazil and put in soybean fields, and the temperature goes up a degree, and we can directly relate it. But does that degree really change things in the cycle, or is that only changing things in our lifetime? And it's just like politics. There are people on one side and that believe strongly that it's this way, and people on the other side that believe it's strongly the other way. And maybe the truth's in the middle. Maybe one group's right, one group's wrong. But the one thing's for sure is that in your lifetime, you're not going to see what the real change is. So instead of worrying about it and losing sleep, think about it and maybe make it a priority, like number 73, to do something about, and go on and plant some decent plants, put in something good. Contact us and we'll tell you about the problem you're having. If the insect attacks your little plant, let us know about it and we'll tell you how to get rid of it. And keep gardening, keep doing things, and keep contacting us. And remember the Florida friendly thing that we're doing in this county, they're doing in just about every county in Florida. So find out what it is, and it's a great plan for doing things around your own home and to avoid mistakes. It's just a good way to grow things. So I just love getting on these long benders like this. So that's
you're saying good stuff.
So there you go.
And speaking of little insects, let me go ahead and take a moment and give kind of a public service announcement here. I read just a week or two ago and then even put it on social media, so I had to look it up and read a little bit about it. And then we got an email the other day from University of Florida. Bernie, when I get a chance today, I'll go ahead and forward that to you to read it. They have found a new invasive hornet, not in Florida. They found it in Georgia, not far from Savannah. So let me go ahead and screen share this. They have found the yellow-legged hornet in Georgia for the first time. And this is the first time it's been found in the U.S. So they found a few of these hornets in a gentleman's yard. He raises bees and contacted the state of Georgia. This is a big, kind of, I like to say scary, but I don't think they're that scary. But these big close-up pictures would look a little scary. This is a fairly large-sized hornet. It is related to the, what do they call them? The murder hornets that they found in Washington State. So it is not widespread. It's not a huge problem. If you look closely, one thing that kind of gives it away is they do have yellow legs. Now, before everybody goes into a panic and starts contacting our office and sending me pictures like somebody did a few weeks ago, that they are convinced that I had a lady convinced she had murder hornets, and it turns out that she didn't. What she had was another kind of large bee that we have here in Florida. It's native, and we have a lot of them, and they are called a cicada killer. So very quickly, what a cicada killer looks like, and you can look this up. It's online, University of Florida, feature creatures for the cicada killer. There are two different species. This one I've never noticed before. I've probably seen it, but I've never really noticed it. The one I've always noticed is this one. which is a very large wasp. They will catch cicadas in midair, and they take the cicadas back to their holes in the ground, and they lay their eggs in it. So these bees are native. But if you ever notice that you have large bees or wasps on your property and you're not sure what they are, you're afraid, go ahead and try to get pictures of them and send us pictures, and we can tell you pretty easily from the markings on them exactly what it is. These guys can be very easily identified from good, clear pictures. So
The that invasive hornet, the new one, where did it say where it was native to?
it is native to Asia. Although it has spread over the years, it's spread and become established all over Europe. And keep in mind, honeybees, the honeybees here in the United States all came from Europe. They're European honeybees. And these yellow-legged hornets feed on them. So if you're a beekeeper in Georgia, you're very concerned about this. You're watching very, very closely to see if you can find any and report them. They have not been found in Florida, but they will be watching for them. So we need you guys out there watching for them also.
It's really interesting with that. Those like invasive species vectors are really interesting. So you say it's in Europe, Savannah, Port City, and it's kind of crazy how that stuff you really got to check when you're getting anything. And that's more for commercial applications, but
yeah.
Always look.
The cold hard truth is the world is becoming smaller and smaller, and because of international travel, shipping products, huge ships and wooden pallets and everything else just going around the world all day, every day, these different invasives are becoming a bigger and bigger problem. So this is the first time that these have been found in the U.S., although they've existed, for thousands of years, and they've been a problem in Europe for a number of years. Showed up in Savannah. Savannah is a port city. That might have something to do with how they got here. We have new invasive mosquitoes every year. So believe it or not, there's really bad insects around the world that are not here yet. But unfortunately, they're probably on their way here. But we try to keep you updated. We try to be kind of in between the homeowners and the state and the researchers, always on the outlook. And a lot of times when these things are discovered, it's because of a homeowner, a master gardener, somebody who works with extension, somebody that's saying, see something, say something. So people see something unusual, they report it, they say something, they come out and look, and it's like, oh my gosh, we have a new insect here. So Anne Marie made a comment. Good morning, Anne Marie. How are you? She met with a farmer in Tennessee. That must be where all the Tennessee tomatoes come from. That's at my local produce stand right now. He recommended we look up and support the United States Seed Bank. The Seed Exchange, he mentioned we have many seeds going extinct and recommended only heirloom seeds to me. So, yeah, the United States Seed Bank is a federal government project where they get seeds from every plant possible. All of them. Plants and grains and vegetables and trees and everything else. And they store them away in case a terrible disease comes and wipes them all out. They still have some as backup once they figure out how to deal with the disease. So it's a very, very good idea. So she's asking, what are my thoughts on GMO versus heirloom? I'm switching out to heirloom, but we'll continue to work on this. So let's wrap up today by a quick little discussion on what is GMO and what is an heirloom and what are all these other things. And I'll start. GMO plants are what that stands for is genetically modified. And what they do is they have the ability to take genes from one thing and put them into something else. So they do that always for a reason, to be able to grow the plant more efficiently, more productively. They're going to get a big harvest off of it. I can use a really, really good example. Well, the original one was Roundup Ready crops. Let's say you grow corn out in Iowa, and a huge problem with growing corn out there is you're going to get a lot of weeds in it. Weeds decrease the harvest. You have to go out there and either plow more, which takes diesel fuel. What they would do is they spray lots of chemicals, lots of herbicides, weed killers, and now you have a high load of that weed killer residue on the corn plants to control the weeds. So what they did was they put a gene into the corn that made it somewhat resistant to Roundup. So you grow the corn and the weeds pop up, and you can go out there and spray it with Roundup. The active ingredient is glyphosate. And if you use the recommended levels, kills the weeds, won't kill the corn. If you mix it too strong, it'll kill the weeds and the corn. So it has a gene in it that enables it to sustain and deal with a certain amount of glyphosate within reason. So that's what GMOs are basically. They rarely, they're heavily regulated, and they rarely pass off on new varieties of GMOs. It kills me when I see these things and ads and this and that. I think I've seen GMO-free water. I've seen GMO-free every kind of plant imaginable that no GMO variety exists for. So very quickly, things that might be GMO would be corn, soybeans, sugar beets, tomatoes. There are GMO tomatoes. There is GMO papayas that are resistant to papaya ring spot virus. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of things that GMOs even exist for. So please don't be afraid of like, I want to grow radishes and buy seeds, but they have to be GMO, non-GMO seeds. There's no such thing as GMO radishes. They haven't invented them yet. They've had no reason to. Radishes are very easy to grow. So don't be fooled by people saying that this is non-GMO if a GMO possibility doesn't even exist. A lot of people are very, very nervous and not big supporters of GMOs. Those versus heirloom. Heirloom varieties of plants are ones that have been grown for many, many years. It's the vegetables, the green beans, the tomatoes, the watermelons that were grown more than 50 years ago. So let's say 100 years ago, they grew this variety of tomatoes. The problem with them is they tend to have very, very terrible disease resistance. So maybe it's the kind of tomatoes that your great-grandparents grew, but they're not going to resist disease as well at all. And you're going to be out there spraying them mostly fungicides, but also insecticides. So that makes growing them very, very difficult in Florida. Maybe they do better up north. Maybe they have lower disease pressure up there. I'm not sure. Here in Florida, they're tough to grow. Newer varieties of vegetables, what they do is they crossbreed them. So a company will grow a field full of a variety tomato they brought back from Central America that has fantastic disease resistance, but the tomatoes are ugly and they taste horrible. So, Colby, would you want to eat those tomatoes?
No.
No, nobody wants to eat those tomatoes, but it's got great disease resistance. You take it and you grow a variety of tomato that has beautiful, wonderful tasting tomatoes, but gets diseases really, really bad. You take the flowers, you cross-pollinate them, gather up all the seeds, and you grow 1 million of them. And out of 1 million tomatoes that come up, you go through and you keep checking for who has disease resistant. Okay, you don't have disease resistant, you go in the dumpster. You die pretty quickly, you go in the dumpster. And they keep narrowing it down until they find a variety that has tasty tomato and good disease resistance. It's like, bing, that's our $1 million variety that we're going to give a cool name to and start selling in about 2 or 3 years through seed catalogs. That's where the best seeds tend to come from. And if you're just looking at cross-pollinated varieties of plants, they do that naturally. Mm-hmm. GMOs, they do in a lab. A lot of people don't like the idea. Bertie, did I get that pretty close or pretty correctly?
You did, and there's a problem with GMO that they don't talk about, and that is we tend to be a monoculture when you go GMO. So we generate a GMO soybean, and this soybean has all the genes necessary to produce great big beans and be resistant to an insecticide for the whatever the insect is, and be resistant to a fungicide, whatever the fungus is, and resistant to uh, a herbicide to get rid of the weeds. And now we have what we consider to be the absolute perfect plant. We've modified the genes until we get this gorgeous plant. And everybody plants the same plant. And 10 years down the road, the only thing that exists anywhere is a field of XYZ soybeans. And the next year, XYZ soybeans are hit by some unknown disease that we had never anticipated. We don't have time to develop a gene for it. This thing spreads like crazy, and the industry is over. And if you don't believe that can happen, think about what happened to citrus in Florida and how short a time it took for citrus to disappear. If we had a GMO citrus that was resistant to greening, there would be nothing but fields of GMO resistant citrus in this. Since we didn't have, we lost an entire crop. Well, that is what happens when you have a super monoculture of anything. GMO leads to super monoculture. It's not a dangerous thing. It's not something to fear. By the time it's in production, there's enough money behind it. Somebody's made sure that under no circumstances is this going to damage the people that take it. That's not the problem. The problem is we have set up such a monoculture, we may be in a position to fail because we did so well. And that's true of everything. So it's like the grass in Hernando County. We have one disease that attacks everybody's lawn, and everybody has exactly the same lawn. So, anytime there's a monoculture, there's a risk of something taking out the entire plant. And that's what we're doing with the GMO.
Yeah, genetic diversity is very important when it comes to diseases, not killing all of them. I think probably the best example, probably a lot of people are familiar with, is if you know anything about bananas, grocery store bananas that are all produced in South and Central America. They're all the same variety. An awful lot of them are all clones of each other because they don't start them from seeds. They just take a little bit from one banana and then they make 10,000 more banana plants. And there are diseases that if they came to Central America would wipe them all out. And we would not have bananas at the grocery store, at least for a while. Now, there's plenty of other varieties of bananas that people do grow in their backyard. A lot of those would not be killed by the disease, but the one that they grow all the bananas for in Central America, that are all the grocery store ones, are always in potentially in trouble of being wiped out should those diseases come to Central America and actually hit them.
Anyway, that's why we have the seed bank, which is there to solve the problem. Assuming that we lose all of a crop because of a disease, there is still some seed stock to start. It's going to take a while to recover, but at least it's possible to recover. So there's a world seed bank. There's a U.S. seed bank. The world seed bank is, if I'm not mistaken, is in an area that is ice all year round, and it's a big ice cave. And
yeah, I've seen articles about that.
I forget what country, Finland or
Sweden, or it's like Scandinavia, I believe.
Yeah. But anyway, that it's very important if you're going to do the GMO thing that you realize that you have to maintain the starter stock someplace so that you don't end up in a dead end. I would hate to give up corn. I love corn on the cob, and I love my corn check. So GMO corn is fine. You know, the people, the farmers in India hate GMO. They despise it because the people that do GMO have rights to the plant. It's a patented plant. I developed it. It's mine. You got to pay me to use it. Well, farmers in India were used to, they would grow corn. They would take seeds from the corn that they grew and they would plant them next year. If you do a GMO, in order to get seed, you have to guarantee that you will not plant the seed from this product yourself next year, so that they make their money. And I can understand you spent millions of dollars developing this, you want to make a big profit back. But the little farmer gets nailed in this because the little farmer can't use the seed. And because of that, some of the countries have laws about GMOs that are very harmful to the actual people, because if they don't do that, it's harmful to the farmers. And there's some moral issues there that I'm not really sure how to handle. I feel like if you plant it and you understand it, it's going to go a certain way. And rice is one of those. We have a fantastic rice that most of the poorer countries depend on rice as being one of their staples. And yet, although we have a rice that is fantastic now as a staple, they don't want to pay to use it. They didn't have to pay before. They don't want to pay now. And these things are problems for governments. And unfortunately, governments don't always do a very good job.
Yeah, something very important I forgot to mention. With GMOs, they are not available to just residents, random backyard gardeners, the general public. They're only available to farmers, and the farmer has to work with the company. They have to sign paperwork, and then they have to pay for the seeds. So if anybody watching this wants to order vegetable seeds online, you don't have access to GMOs. You don't have to worry about GMOs being on the seed rack at the big box store, or from one of the catalogs that they may mail to you, or one of the companies that you can go online and order seeds. You can't get GMOs, so don't worry about them. I've seen so many people on Facebook, where can I order GMO seeds? If you can order seeds, they're non-GMO, because you can't get them. So, gosh, guys, today's hour just flew by. I mean, we're trying to cut this a little bit shorter than 1 hour. But let me go ahead and remind everybody that our Master Gardeners have a nursery here in Brooksville, Florida. There is the address for anybody in Hernando County. This is right behind the Hernando County Fairgrounds, which is right along 41. If you pull down the road behind the fairgrounds, like you're heading to animal control, they are there Wednesday mornings and Saturday mornings from 8:30 in the morning until 11. This winter, they'll be open till noon, but it's still really hot, so they close at 11. Can't say as I blame them. And what else do I have? If anybody would like to talk to Bernie directly, if you have a lawn and garden question, you want to get a hold of him later on, there is the phone number to our office. And today we have Deanna answering the phones. So she'd be more than happy to go ahead and patch you through to Bernie, and you can ask him your lawn and garden questions directly. And let me check comments one more time. Anne-Marie, you are very welcome. Like I said, if you want to know all of our personal opinions, pros, cons, everything else, a lot of times people ask a question, and what they really want is us to go, yes, that's a great idea, do it. Or, no, that's a terrible idea, don't do it. And unfortunately, most times it's like, well, Maybe, maybe not. Here's the good points. Here's the bad points. People need to decide for themselves. All we try to do is just give you the information to kind of base that informed decision on. But hey, guys, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and wrap it up for today. I know I will be back again next Thursday. Bernie, you're going to be here?
I'll be here.
I'll be here. Colby, you're going to be back next week?
I'll plan on it.
Okay, great. Colby's going to start going in his schedule, hopefully, and putting down Thursday mornings to be able to join us here to answer your questions. So, hey, thanks everybody for joining in and participating and asking questions and being here with us. Like I said earlier, if you didn't come on, we would have quit doing this a long time ago, but we'll keep coming back if you keep coming back. And we'll be here again next Thursday at 10 a.m. So until then, everybody take care and have a great week gardening, and we'll see you then. Bye, guys.